What if the most valuable thing in your life was something you could never keep? Welcome to CALMR. Tonight, I'll tell you a quiet story. Long ago, there lived an old gardener. Every morning, before the village awakened, he opened the wooden gate to his garden. It wasn't the biggest garden, it wasn't the oldest, but people travelled from distant villages just to see it. The flowers bloomed in colours they had never seen before. Yet what people remembered most wasn't the garden, it was the gardener. Because no one had ever seen him pick even a single flower. The villagers tried to understand. Some believed the old gardener was simply strange. Others said he had grown too old to enjoy the flowers he planted. But every morning they saw the same thing. Before the first rays of sunlight reached the garden, he was already there, watering the soil, pulling away tiny weeds, straightening fallen branches. He cared for every flower, as though each one mattered. Yet when a blossom opened beautifully, he simply admired it, then quietly moved on. One spring morning, something unusual happened. A single white flower bloomed near the center of the garden. No one had ever seen one like it before. Its petals shimmered softly beneath the morning light. Its fragrance drifted far beyond the wooden gate. Before long, people began to gather. Some came out of curiosity. Others came with something else. Desire. They admired the flower quietly at first. Then someone asked, "Would you sell it?" The gardener smiled, but he said nothing. Another villager offered twice as much. "Name your price, I'll pay it." The gardener simply returned to watering the soil. The flower remained exactly where it had bloomed. Days passed. More visitors arrived. Some travelled from distant towns. They had heard stories about a flower unlike any other. Some carried small bags of silver. Others promised gold. One wealthy merchant looked around the garden, then smiled confidently. "Everything has a price, even this flower." The old gardener looked at him kindly. He gently brushed a fallen leaf from the path. Then he spoke. "If I sell it, who will the butterflies visit tomorrow?" The merchant laughed. He thought the old man was joking. But the gardener never laughed. He simply continued caring for his garden. The merchant left, but the story did not. Within a few weeks, more people arrived. Some came hoping to buy the flower, others came simply to see the old man who always refused. One afternoon, a little girl walked quietly through the wooden gate. She carried nothing. She offered nothing. She simply stood beside the flower. After a long while, she looked at the gardener. "May I ask you something?" The old man nodded. "Of course." She looked back at the flower. "Don't you ever want to keep it?" The garden became very quiet. Even the breeze seemed to slow. The gardener smiled, not because it was an easy question, but because it was the first time someone had asked without wanting to own the answer. He gently closed his watering can. Then he said, "Come, walk with me." The little girl walked beside him. They followed a narrow path between the flowers. Neither of them spoke. They simply listened to the evening breeze. After a while, they reached the oldest tree in the garden. The gardener stopped. He looked toward the branches above. Birds rested there, singing softly before the sun disappeared. He smiled. Then he asked, would they still return if I built a cage around this tree? The little girl thought quietly. Then she shook her head. No, they would fly away. The gardener nodded. They continued walking. Soon, they stopped beside the white flower. Its petals moved gently with the wind. People believe that beauty lasts longer when it belongs to them. He looked at the flower, but looked closely. The butterflies, the bees, the morning dew, even the wind can only visit. None of them try to own it. The little girl remained silent. For the first time, she understood why the garden felt so peaceful. Nothing inside it was being held too tightly. Years passed. Spring returned again and again. The little girl was no longer a child. One quiet evening, she found herself standing before the same wooden gate. She stepped inside. The garden was as peaceful as she remembered. Flowers swayed gently in the evening breeze. Butterflies drifted from blossom to blossom. Birds sang from the old tree. But one thing had changed. The old gardener was gone. Only the garden remained. She walked slowly along the familiar path until she reached the white flower. It wasn't the same flower. Time had already carried that one away, but another had bloomed in its place. She smiled. At last, she understood. The gardener had never protected a single flower. He had protected the garden, because flowers were always meant to bloom. And when their season ended, they quietly made room for another. She took one last look across the garden. Then, without picking a single flower, she walked home, leaving the garden just as beautiful as she had found it. And perhaps that is how we honor the most beautiful things in our lives. Not by trying to keep them forever, but by being thankful that they bloomed while we were there to see them.